Welcome to the Brandon Market Podcast, the show for short-term rental owners who want to turn their listings into legacies. I'm your host, Allie Haney, owner and co-host of multiple properties and founder of Brandon Market, where we help Airbnb hosts and short-term rental investors build intentional brands, smart marketing systems, and guest experiences that actually move the needle. Each week, I share practical strategies, real-life stories, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you attract the right guests, increase bookings, and run your rental like a business, so you too can be the best in your brand and your market. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Brandon Market Podcast. Now that I am on YouTube, I feel like now you guys are just going to know when my podcast producer is waiting for me to submit a new episode, because here I am in my freshly washed hair and comfy clothes. So if you see me on Instagram clips or if you see me on YouTube, that's the reason. I'm behind on recording and I have to do it at night after regular business hours. So it's been a while since we have caught up on Luna. I did parts 1, 2, and 3. So that was part 1 was all about prior to actually putting in an offer. Part 2 was all about the due diligence period and going through inspections. Part 3 was post-closing, some of the hurdles we faced there. And then now part 4, we are so close to being live. It's so close I can feel it, but we still have that kind of rush to get to the end. So as of right now, our anticipated opening date is the first week of February, which if you've been following along for a while, you know that's about 5 weeks after we anticipated being live. I thought we were going to be live closer to Christmas time. So there you go. There you have it. I'm learning a lot about contracting timelines and how they are almost always longer than you think they will be. A little bit of an update. I do have a couple of different things that we've experienced since the last time we caught up about Luna. The first thing, and probably the biggest thing, is the flooring installation. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the previous episode, but when we originally purchased the property, we were planning on painting and doing some very minor updates, light fixtures, mostly cosmetic stuff. We weren't planning on doing any floor replacement until we had been in service for about a year. You guys know that we stayed, and after we stayed one night, we were there for less than 12 hours when we rented it out on Airbnb as guests before we purchased it. I thought we can probably push these floors another year. Once we got in there at Thanksgiving, I realized that there was no way that I was going to be comfortable putting out a product that looked like that. What it comes down to is that the last time they put flooring down, it was very cheap flooring. It was very thin, LVP, if you could even call it that. I don't even know if it had underlayment under it. And I guess when they did it, I don't know if it was a DIY job or if the contractor was just going really quickly, but there were lots of gaps in the floor where you could see where the LVP had split apart and you could see some subfloor under it. In addition to that, a lot of there were places with no quarter round, and the attention to detail was just not there. So when we were there at Thanksgiving painting walls and doing our first big push of work, I told Caleb, I was I think we're going to have to pull the trigger on this one. So we did end up purchasing the LVP flooring for the vast majority of the home. And it was on Brianna's design. Our interior designer that we worked with is Brianna Michelle. And she had suggested replacing the floors. And, like I said, it was on the plan. It just wasn't on the plan yet. And so when I finally decided to move forward with it, it was actually a relief. Not financially, it was not a relief, but it was a relief that everything was going to be done and we weren't going to have to leave things partially completed. So it was nice to move forward with that. It ended up costing us quite a bit. I'm going to have to break this down. I'll just give you the numbers. I'll just be straightforward with you. It was about $4,000 in LVP materials. We ended up purchasing way too much because it was a dome house. Typically, they recommend you doing whatever the square footage is plus 10% for just mistakes and excess. I thought because it was a circular home, a dome home, that we were going to need closer to 15% of extra cuts. And so I purchased additional flooring, 15% additional flooring. Turns out we did not need nearly that much. So we ended up returning about $1,000 worth of flooring. So materials all in between like 3,000 and 3,250. And then with this being, us being far away, we've laid floor before plenty of times, LVP. But it being a dome house, I didn't feel super confident in the cuts. So I was like, let's hire a professional to do this. So we did. We hired an outside contractor that was local to the area. And that labor cost, she ended up having to buy a couple of additional materials, but the labor cost was around $3,600. So just for the LVP alone, we were running about $6,600, which was unanticipated expenses. Like I said, we were not planning on doing that yet. The bathroom floor was tile in the design from Brianna Michelle. So we did purchase the tile as well, which is crazy how heavy tile is. I had it delivered to our personal residence, like this house in North Carolina. And then Caleb was gone that week that I was trying to get the tile up there for them to install. And so I loaded, it was only like 10 boxes of tile because it's it's like 100 square feet, less than 72 square feet, I think, if we want to be exact. It was like 10 boxes of tile, and each box had like 4 or 5 tiles in it. It was 615 pounds worth of tile in those 10 boxes. So it was like 60 pounds a box. It was so heavy getting that on the back of the truck. I remember when the guy delivered it to our house, it was on a pallet and he had like a little like hand cranker jack thing. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Thank you so much for bringing it to the garage. Can you possibly like jack it up to the back of the truck so I can just push it off? And he was like, yeah, no, this jack goes about 3 inches off the ground. I was like, oh, okay. So it's a dolly. It just has wheels. Got it. So the tile itself the purchase was around $1,000. And then we got a couple of different quotes on the tile. It ranged pretty much from $1,700 to $1,900. We ended up going with the lower quote. And so that was an additional $2,700 just to get the floor done in the bathroom. So 66 plus 27. So close to 10 grand that we were not anticipating on spending. So that was a surprise expense and was very unfortunate that it also elongated our timeline to be able to open. So you can see how that's a double whammy. With that being said, I'm grateful that we did it. Like I said, it's something that we were planning on doing anyway, and we got it crossed off the list. But also, when they pulled up a portion of the floor in the front room, they found that there were some floor joists that needed to be replaced and some subfloor that needed to be replaced. So Caleb, who has become a jack of all trades, jumped right in there. He replaced those floor joists, and it is solid as a rock now. And we fixed the problem that caused the rotten floor joist as well. So that's good. I'm very proud of us for doing things the right way and not taking the easy way out. So that was a big hurdle, but actually, as I record this episode, they should be finishing up the grout and the tile and sealing it tomorrow. So that's exciting. And the final thing that we have left to do on our punch list, I might be jumping ahead of myself here, but the final thing that we have left to do is to install the bathtub. If you remember when I was talking about some of the branding behind Elysian, which will eventually be the micro resort, but specifically around Luna, which is the first unit of the micro resort, is that we are gearing our entire this unit towards families. So it's 2 bed, 1 bath with a loft, and that 1 bathroom only had a standing shower. So I know if young families are coming, then they are going to need a bath to bathe their kids in, and we're not passing kids in and out of the shower or taking a shower with the shower door open, which we have done with our own children. So that's the last thing that we need to install, and that is set to be here at the end of January, beginning of February, which is super exciting. Interrupting this episode to offer some additional value. If you're thinking about buying a short-term rental, whether it's your first one ever or the first time you're actually treating it like a real investment, I made something just for you. It's the short-term rental acquisition checklist. I made it in real time as we walked through the acquisition process of a new short-term rental that we purchased for ourselves. It's the exact framework I use when analyzing properties to add to our own portfolio. Think of it as your step-by-step guide to staying organized, running the numbers, navigating due diligence, and making confident decisions instead of second-guessing yourself all the way through the process. It's all through the lens of someone who knows the importance of branding and marketing. If you're ready to evaluate properties like an investor and set yourself up for success from day one, head to the show notes and download it for free. Let's turn your future listing into your legacy. Okay, back to the show. What else did we do? We painted the cabinets, which was again on the design from Brianna Michelle, but we thought we were going to push it until we were able to be open for a little bit. But I looked at my dad when he was down there helping me one weekend, and I was like, Dad, I think we just need to do it. I know that I keep saying this about each and every small project, but it really is going to impact the overall design, the overall aesthetic of the house. And once I saw them painted, it took a long time, but once I saw the cabinets painted, so worth it. So worth it. Once we get professional photos completed, I cannot wait to share them with you. But on one side of the kitchen, there's basically an entire wall full of cabinets. And to me, it just overall felt very heavy. So we talked about tearing some of the cabinets out and replacing it with floating shelves. We talked about putting like a butcher block shelf to add additional like countertop space on the bottom cabinets. We went through like all of these different ideas and possibilities. Well, it turns out the cabinets are legitimately built into the house. So it was going to have to be like an entire like sheetrock drywall job in order to pull out those upper cabinets. So instead, what we did was we left the upper cabinets, we left the frame of the middle cabinets, and then left the bottom cabinets with their doors on them. So what it's going to look like is that middle section is kind of like a shelving unit. It almost looks like a built-in piece of furniture where there's no doors on the cabinets. It's just freestanding like dishes and glassware. And it's actually very, very pretty. So I'm excited that we pulled the trigger on that one. I have never seen blue cabinets in a house before, and now Luna has blue cabinets in its house. So that's exciting. We also started to put the furniture together back over Christmas time. One thing I will suggest if you are doing this type of renovation slash install is maybe don't get so excited that you have to put the furniture in before the construction is done, because having contractors and yourselves walking in and out of the house on brand new rugs over top of like cardboard splayed everywhere is not the best use of a brand new rug. I can assure you that. I got excited. I asked Caleb to go down and help put together a bunch of furniture. So it was my brother, Caleb's best friend, me, and Caleb, and putting out a blue, navy blue velvet couch with a shit ton of sawdust that's being sawed from the remainder of the LVP being laid. Not my best idea. So if I had to go back and do it again, I would just wait for all of the construction to be done. I would hold my horses a little bit longer. And then once everything is completed construction wise, I would have a construction clean completed so that the cleaner could get all of the dust out of every single nook and cranny. And then I would install the furniture. But I was just too excited. So it's a learning curve, but that is one suggestion that I would make. What's really fun is to see the design coming alive. I will say that we pulled out a couple of elements that we decided not to do from the design, but overall, we have executed pretty flawlessly. I guess two things that we decided not to do were both having to do with the ceiling. In the master bedroom, as well as we're calling it the cranberry room, it's kind of a moody room downstairs, an extra living room with the TV and a record player and the velvet couch. So both of those rooms, the interior designer suggested having wallpaper on the ceilings. And just after having been down there with the creeks running right by the house, there is a lot of moisture in the air. And so I was a little bit afraid that if we put the wallpaper on the ceilings, that it would eventually just end up falling back down on a guest's head and just peeling off the ceiling. So we ended up not doing that. Those ceilings are going to remain white, but they do, I mean, especially in that one cranberry room, it's a very dark room with not much natural light. So any light that we can have that bounces off the ceiling and makes the space a little bit brighter, I think is going to work in our favor. So that was one design decision that we pivoted on. The second one was the color of the dome ceiling. She suggested painting the dome ceiling a navy blue with like beautiful like star stencils or murals on it that were golden. And I love the overall idea of that. But again, because it's a dome house and we don't have much natural light, there's not a lot of windows in that house. There's like three skylights across the dome that are pretty tiny. and don't always get direct sunlight during the day. So we decided to veer away from the navy blue ceilings and leave them white just so that it was a little bit brighter and airier in there. Those were the main two design decisions that we pivoted on. The third, that was kind of a pivot, but still was executed pretty well, was that in the main room, the entryway was supposed to be wallpaper of clouds. And instead of doing the wallpaper, because again, I didn't think it would stick, not only due to the moisture, but also the shape of the ceiling, because that was like a dome wall, it was curved. We hired a local mural artist to come in and paint what would have been the same like pattern essentially on the wallpaper. The really cool part is that I found her in a Facebook group local to the area, and she was a retired art teacher and willing to come and do like a full wall mural. And then when she was between the time that like I booked her and she showed up, she sent me like practice canvases. She was so out of this world talented. She sent me practice canvases to kind of approve, do I like this color? Do I want more contrast, more shadows in the clouds, etc. And then once she got there and she did the clouds, she completed the clouds, she was like, "Would you like the Blue Ridge Mountains on the bottom, across the bottom of the like half wall on the chair rail?" And I'm like, "Yes, please. Absolutely." So within that mural, not only do we have the Blue Ridge Parkway Mountains, we also have a specific mountain that is, she taught me this, I did not know this beforehand, a notable mountain in the area where people used to go to party, including a pretty prominent, I think he's a pastor, I couldn't remember if he's a priest or a pastor, a pretty prominent pastor before he decided to choose religion. So she told me the whole story about that mountain, and I thought that was really unique and cool for the area. Let's see, any other issues that we encountered. Oh, like I said, I with the floors, I couldn't let the listing go live without it being perfect. I'm doing my best to release the perfectionism, but it is a little bit hard when you want to deliver the caliber of client experience that we want to deliver. So the other thing that was kind of a hiccup and a question mark for a while in the process was I asked Caleb to exchange the shower vent out of the shower. The old one looked like it had been original. It looked pretty like dingy and yellow. It was just 30 years old, it just didn't look good. So I was like, "Is there any way you can swap that out for me?" He is pretty handy with electrical things. He got the old one out and went to go put the new one in, had everything to the point where it should have worked. And then the entire like outlet, or that like, I don't even know what it's called, the whole like light switch plate, it had three lights on it, and all of a sudden none of them worked. And we could not figure out why. Thankfully, we were able to get in touch with an awesome electrician who, again, is local, and he came and fixed us right up. But I was really worried about the shower vent, A, not being able to work, and B, not having a light over top of the shower because it could get dark in there. That is all set and squared away now, but that was also another obstacle that we faced in this renovation process. Now, bringing us up to current, like I said, the last main thing is to get the tile completed tomorrow, and then the bathtubs set and installed the following week. And then we get professional photos done, one final clean before we open, so it's set for our first guests. And we are off to the races. We should be booking in February. And I would absolutely love to extend a discount code to all of our listeners at the Branded Market Podcast. If you haven't already, please feel free to sign up for the Elysian/Luna waitlist. I'm going to link that in the show notes. But if you use the code STAY50, STAY 50, on our direct booking site, which will be up soon, you will receive $50 off of your booking. I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to allow that to run for a while, or if I'm going to cap it at the top three. But just in case I do decide to cap it at the top three, you should get on that as soon as possible. I am super excited to be able to welcome our very first guests. I am behind the scenes working on the guest guidebook, working on the direct booking site, and all of the branded materials that we're going to have in Luna. So until next time, guys, I would love for you to sign up for the waitlist. Remember, code STAY50. And lastly, if you would like to work together to execute branding or marketing for your short-term rental, I'm going to link my call calendar. You can book directly for a consult call there, and I would love to work with you in the future. Until next time, take care, y'all. You just completed another episode of the Brand and Market Podcast. If you found this helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find this show and so that you never miss an episode. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for all the resources mentioned today. See you next Wednesday, and as always, I'm here cheering you on as you build your dream brand and business.